this week's Really Big Fan Podcast. I'm your host, ChZuck, joined as always by my co-host and wife, ACRONYM.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, it's all right. It's fine. And we've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking to another member of Bathroom of the Future, Mr. Sean, who's also known as BrutalFattery on Twitch and everywhere else on the internet, about his love for the band Gwar. We've got our serotonin boost coming up. I can't wait to discuss with you guys what mine is this week. Before we do, though, it's always headline time when we start the show. I mean, did you have anything you wanted to contribute before we jump right in?
No, I'm good. Let's roll.
Okay. The huge news this week was it was the big weekend for Hollywood with Barbie and Oppenheimer opening on the same weekend, and people going to do double features of it, and the memes have been fantastic. But at the end of the day, Barbie beat Oppenheimer in its first weekend, but both films did fantastic at the box office, and it'll be funny to see going forward each week if they're just the top two and how many weeks that lasts.
Yeah, the staggering.
What movie will eventually come in and slip through and make it like between them?
Turtles.
Hopefully. I know that's the next time we're planning on going to the movie theater.
Right. Yeah, I've been talking to some people about Barbie because they've been kind of telling me their thoughts, even though I have not seen it yet.
Sure.
And everybody was like, I thought this was going to be more fun. I'm having an existential crisis.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of that apparently going on, and a lot of
there are themes.
Patriarchy smashing.
Yeah.
Is one of the big things. So
Hell yeah.
a lot of men were very uncomfortable, apparently.
Yeah, was it is it Paul Shapiro or whatever?
Ben
Shapiro was all pissy over the weekend about
for
Barbie and
45 minutes. Somebody photoshopped Ken doll's body on the bottom of him completely naked. Somebody photoshopped him like burning Barbies. He
did burn Barbies. That happened.
He? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That was real.
He's pathetic.
It's true.
And on that note, as we're in the movie side of things real quick, Snoop Dogg decided that he was going to cancel his 2 Hollywood Bowl shows to be in solidarity with everybody in WGA and SAG-AFTRA during the strike. So
interesting.
So he was supposed to be doing Doggy Style tour, like a 30-year thing.
Sure.
The Hollywood Bowl. And I think because it's the Hollywood Bowl, he decided he was going to strike for those 2 shows. So they're not doing them.
But how many SAG-AFTRA people had tickets that were?
Yeah, and that's probably. I'm
to...
sure they're probably postponed. They're not like canceled, but they or it does say canceled.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe they're going to update that or something, but it says that he is choosing not to do those shows in solidarity. So I'm sure if they get canceled that ahead of time, they get their money back at least. But.
Could have just looked at the list of people who bought tickets, and anybody who is a studio head be like, your ticket's no good here. Get out.
Of course, they're not going to do that. It would take them forever to do that, and they're all high.
Well,
but that's the way he's been outspoken about that lately, as well as bringing up as he's seeing what's going on with them, going the music industry needs to do the same thing because we're not getting paid properly.
Right.
And he was talking about his costs of what he used to make as an artist and now what he doesn't make because he's not selling physical copies of things like they used to.
So that's something I've thought of. We talk about this every week, the strike or everything, but something that I thought of is like an underlying future problem that not a lot of people are talking about. So the SAG-AFTRA strike, when it's over, hopefully means that the people creating the thing are getting more money. That doesn't mean the people at the top are going to make less money. They're just going to find other people to squeeze to make more money. And eventually that's going to be us. And Netflix is going to be like a $25 or $30 a month service, and Disney Plus and Paramount and all that stuff.
Yeah, but nobody can afford that.
Right.
So.
Their subscription numbers are going to drop, and then these services are just going to close the fuck up because they can't afford the cost of, making it, because their stockholders want a certain amount of growth every quarter, and they want a certain amount of money for making the decisions, even when they're stupid decisions.
Yeah.
I think, and like what are we gonna do then?
Well, this is right up there with that whole argument about, like, you going, well, fuck billionaires, you don't care. Like,
Sure.
It's right up there with that on the side of, like, I would rather people get paid fairly for their contributions, and if they're not getting fairly paid, then...
You'd rather not have the access to the thing.
Yeah,
If it
yeah.
means that people don't get to pay their bills.
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I am somebody that works on entertainment stuff constantly.
For sure.
And there's 90% of it I don't get paid for.
Right.
And it's very hard to maintain that, and it turns into this thing where it's like, well, if I just hang on long enough, then I'll get on a tour, or
Right.
I'll get picked up by an artist or something like that. And it's so hard when, people doing that and undervaluing even what people need to create for their stuff, talking about photos and graphics and things like that. So the problem doesn't solve no matter where we're at, because it's always going to be passing it around from one side to another until, an actual studio gives a shit. Now, I know that A24 is actually, I think, being permitted to do some things because you can submit waivers to hopefully get your projects rolling or whatever.
And I think...
But they accepted everything.
Yeah. They were like...
We're 100% okay, let's go.
Yep.
And that's the smart decision, and they're going to win out on that. And if studios don't follow suit, then you're going to see collapses of studios.
You're going to see in like 6 or 12 months the only movies that are coming out are A24 movies.
Yeah, and whoever else gets approved for those clearances, because you can submit your project through it. It just depends on, what you're doing and if they decide to green light it or not. But overall, it's, if the other studios are going to become bigger studios out of this process because they did accept that and they get approved to go forward, then you do have that thing of, well, I don't want to work with that studio anymore because they're not going to do that, and those studios will go down before any of those streaming services do, I think, in my brain.
Well, that's the interesting thing too, is you brought up A24 has been permitted to do stuff. I wonder which of like the big, whether it's Paramount or Disney or Fox, or Fox is Disney now, but like which of the big studios would be the first to crack? Will be the first to be like, all right, fine. I wouldn't say A24 cracked, but they were like, we agree. Yeah, we will give you everything you want. And they were like, cool, keep making movies.
Well, yeah, and considering how many studios were trying to force people to lose their homes and were
which one of
about
Warner Brothers, Paramount, and like Disney, like which one of those three is going to be the first to go like, yeah, all right, give it to them. So that they can also continue to push their content forward, and get a head start on the others.
I think it's like the brainwashing of culture, but like in my brain, I was both going Disney and not Disney at the same time,
right?
Just because Disney has the most to lose.
That's true.
Because you're looking at that body of, now they've absorbed over every company,
right?
If they don't do something soon, they're screwed.
Yeah.
And they're already, cutting things. They're pulling things off of Disney Plus, which we know how I feel about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying about
they're already losing money.
That's what I'm saying about the streaming services. Just, like if Netflix collapses tomorrow, Stranger Things is just gone.
Yep.
Unless you find a pirate, version of it. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of, that's just one example. There's tons of things that just disappear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, at that point, I would see a lot of physical copies coming in. They'd have to reroute pretty much all of the remaining funding they'd have to push out that
to try and push out Blu-rays and DVDs. Well, probably just Blu-rays at this point.
Yeah, so with all of that, but...
That being said, one of the weird things to come out of San Diego Comic-Con, which we'll get into in a minute, is that Marvel/Disney is putting out a steelbook for WandaVision that does not contain any discs. It's just a steelbook. If you want to have a physical something on your bookshelf because you really liked WandaVision.
That's so...
A discless steelbook.
That's fucking dumb.
Isn't it?
I'm sorry, but it is. I would not give money to that, honestly.
No, it's like you're getting nothing.
Yeah. Is it images? Is it...
No, it's just a steelbook with the WandaVision cover on it and probably something on the back, and you open it up and there's nothing in there.
If it was like a keepsake box, that would still make more sense. Wow.
Goofy. absolutely goofy.
I don't know anybody that likes WandaVision that much.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like that's the project you decided to debut the discless steelbook for.
Well, it wasn't going to work for Secret Invasion, though we have not watched the last episode. Apparently, they were just like, everybody is just kind of going, this was useless.
Yeah.
This is absolutely useless, and you took certain people off the board for no reason. Not to, I'm not spoiling it for anybody if you haven't watched
Right,
it.
right. Yeah, like you said, we haven't seen it yet, but I can honestly see where like this doesn't largely affect anything until a year or two from now, or maybe 2 or 3 years from now, when a movie decides that this happened in Secret Invasion, so now this is happening.
Well, I honestly think it'll come up in the Marvels to
I hope
degree,
so.
because the connection of Skrulls
And Nick Fury.
and Carol and everything, and like that makes the most sense to me. But yeah, I mean, I've liked it. It's been good, but it's not been like, oh my god, I have to watch it.
Yeah,
It's more like we have this routine of going and getting groceries, coming back, I make food, we watch whatever show we're watching.
Right.
And so, that's been the process, but I don't think Secret Invasion has done the best.
I think that's what Disney Plus, ever since Mandalorian, is counting on, is that people will get into the routine that we've gotten into. It's like, oh, it's Wednesday or Friday that I've got to watch my new Star Wars or Marvel show.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see that for sure.
Well, like I said, San Diego Comic-Con was the other big news this weekend that happened over from Friday to, it was from Thursday to Saturday. I think we might have mentioned last week that it was going to be a very weird San Diego Comic-Con because a lot of the creators weren't going to show up to, advertise whatever projects are coming up because they're on strike. They did get some of the like, I think Seth Rogen was there along with the director of Ninja Turtles to talk about it.
Yeah.
But like some of the voice actors and the actors and actresses and stuff were not in attendance of San Diego. Everybody on my Twitter seemed to actually enjoy San Diego Comic-Con more.
Yeah, without all the celebrities and
with the
panel
studios
crap.
not showing up to like, eat up a whole bunch of panels and make a whole bunch of people show up because they want to see the new trailer for whatever the new DC thing is or whatever.
Did you say that Hellfire Gala thing that they did, was that like a last minute addition because of that? Or?
I don't think so. So yeah, they had like a cosplay event essentially for X-Men fans called the Hellfire Gala, where you could dress up in your best suit and then actually go to the Hellfire Gala, which is a thing that happens every year now in the X-Men comics. No, I think they've done it in previous years, but I don't think it's ever been this big.
Gotcha.
And
That's probably why.
And I don't think they would have focused on it if they had like new Marvel movies or something to promote too. So, but it also, they made sure to coincide the book, which came out today, with San Diego Comic-Con. And the reason they did that is because it is a huge sea change for the X-Men books, in the same way that like House of X and Powers of 10 were a huge flip everything on its ear. Like this is the Empire Strikes Back of the Krakoan era.
Gotcha.
This is the, oh no. Every week I've been buying X-Men comics and reading them, and knowing that this was coming is like, it's just like I've been holding my breath metaphorically.
When's it gonna drop?
Every Wednesday when I read like, oh, this is the last issue before the gala. Oh no. Like everybody's walking to sunset and very happy, but they're not about to be, because bad things are coming. One of the other things the comic companies announced is that DC is doing, I've actually got the new DC Connect here in front of me, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong is coming in October. You can see that.
But why?
So you can see Superman punch Godzilla in the snout. I want to see that, just that panel. It's like, bonk.
How does that phrase go where it's like nobody stopped to ask why?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that is where my brain went with that. I'm like, really?
We were so busy asking if we could that we never asked if we should.
That's what it is. Exactly. Speaking of things that are cartoon and comic related, I'll lead into a music thing for a second. So The Simpsons really does predict it all. This is a spin post that I'm looking at. It says, as foretold by the long-running Fox TV show in 1996, the legendary rap duo of Cypress Hill is indeed playing shows with symphony orchestras.
Hell yeah.
After playing with the Colorado Symphony last week, the rap group will be performing with the San Diego Orchestra tomorrow and the Nashville Symphony in September. So Cypress Hill is now being played in symphony areas.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if their amphitheater looked as smoky as my Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa one, but if it's outdoors, I'm sure it will.
Yes, absolutely. You remember, I think it was one of the first episodes of this podcast that we did when I discovered the symphony orchestra version of X Gonna Give It To You.
Yep.
On Spotify, and I was like, this is amazing. This is what, if you come out to X Gonna Give It To You as a wrestler, the symphony orchestra version is the version you come out to at WrestleMania.
That would be pretty fun.
Amazing. The last bit of San Diego Comic-Con news I wanted to lay on you is that Adult Swim has a new season of Foolie Cooley coming in September. It is the 4th season. I think we've only watched the first one because the second and third were only on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
So I really need to figure out where I can watch that and watch those because I really like the first one.
Yeah.
And the creator of Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, is directing a new anime with John Wick director Chad Strelski. And it's supposed to be another Adult Swim exclusive. It's going to be called Lazarus, and it is about, hold on, it takes place in the year 2052 and follows the story of a neuroscientist who concocts a cure-all drug that has dire side effects that result in death with its users within 3 years. So another kind of futuristic anime, but it's the Cowboy Bebop guy.
Yeah. That intro better be a banger. That's all I'm saying.
I think it says the trailer features music by saxophonist Kamazi Washington, as well as British electronic music DJ Floating Points. So yeah, jazz and hip hop kind of combined. That sounds good.
Yeah, I just that tank is just so iconic.
Tank
I'm
is
like,
really
nothing's gonna beat that.
Tank is really good. All right, well, let's get to our interview segment where, as I said earlier, we're going to be talking to BrutalFattery, also known as our buddy Sean from Bathroom of the Future, about his love of Gwar, and that's next on the Really Big Fan Podcast. Back to the Really Big Fan Podcast. ChZuck and ACRONYM hanging out in the studio. This week, I'm excited because not only do we have basically one of the people in my life that are super fans of Gwar, the band Gwar, which I'll get into that in a moment, but this gives us our second member of Bathroom of the Future that we've had on the podcast. We now had 50% of Bathroom of the Future on this podcast. I'm going to be aiming to make that 100%.
Oh,
I keep forgetting there's a keyboard player. I was like 50%. So if you watch back that video and I go, wait.
Yeah, I got to get Brennan, and I got to get
James.
James. Thank you, James. Sean,
James.
welcome to the Really Big Fan Podcast.
Hi.
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I've talked to you about is that you are a fan of Gwar. And throughout my life, I've always had people in my life that have been fans of Gwar, but they've always kind of been few and far between. Like no two of them have ever known each other, which is fascinating to me. We'll get into in a minute, but let's start at the ground floor at the very beginning. If somebody did not know anything about the band Gwar, how would you explain to them what Gwar is?
Are we going to kayfabe this or what?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So Gwar is basically like a marauding band of intergalactic barbarians who used to wage eternal war against Cardinal Sin and his legions, serving under the Master. However, at some point, they destroyed the wrong planet, and as punishment, were sent to Earth and eventually were frozen. However, during the 80s, the hole in the ozone layer caused by the poofy-haired glam rockers actually thawed them out, and their manager, Sleazy P. Martini, stumbled upon them, got them addicted to mostly crack, and handed them instruments in exchange for going around earning Sleazy a bunch of money. They also killed and tried to mate with anything they possibly could. But yeah, since the 80s, they've been killing many people. Somehow I've survived like 30 or so shows.
That's
Uh,
impressive.
and I don't know how. I just make it out alive, covered in blood, and just do my best. And somehow they come back to the same venue the next year. I don't know why they allow it. It just happens.
I've heard about the blood. I've heard about people saying if you ever get to photograph the elusive Gwar, watch out for the blood.
Yes, they have like I've seen on stage, they'll bring out like a big meat grinder, like a giant meat grinder, then put people in it and crank it, and then blood will fly out.
Yeah, Jerry Springer got fed to that one. Somehow he came out alive for a while.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how they discorporate them in the meat grinder and then somehow put them back together.
I don't get it. But hey, like that's why I'm on this side of the stage.
Right. So let's get a little more personal. Where did you come in as far as Gwar? Like, what was your first exposure to the band?
Very first, like Beavis and Butthead had watched them. So I'd see that in some episodes. The thing about Gwar is they're so amazing live, but you catch their videos, it never captures the magic. So I was like, oh, these cool monster guys, okay, whatever. And they had like bit parts in movies and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like I really got hooked on them when I was in high school. I started hanging out with my new friends. My one friend Richard wanted to go to the show. We weren't able to go, regardless. But it was a weird coincidence where like I had happened to borrow my like cousin's Genesis, and I'd play the Beavis and Butthead game. And then like my one friend's like, "Oh, we should go see Gwar." And again, we couldn't make a ride happen because we're dorks. But we hung out at his house playing video games and such. And I listened to Ragnarok and the album America Must Be Destroyed. And I just knew this was perfect for me from the get. And I mean, I can't even act like the music was cool. It was something. I'd already heard like ICP and Marilyn Manson before that. And in some ways it wasn't as dark, but like it really grabbed me in a certain way. And like I knew this was gonna be my thing when I was like 14 years old.
Interesting. Yeah, there's like a bit of a cartoonishness to them. Like I've heard people say that like Rob Zombie has a bit of a cartoonishness to him, or even Marilyn Manson to a degree that some other artists that go dark do not have. And there's definitely that with Gwar. I remember being exposed to Gwar through the Idiot Box that was on MTV. It was the guy from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the blonde guy. I can't remember his name, Alex Winter. And he had like a sketch comedy show, and then they show videos in between. But he did a bunch of sketches.
The Lost Boy
with Gwar. Yeah, Boy? Yeah, from the Lost Boys. He did a bunch of sketches with Gwar, and I was like, "This is insane." And then eventually, I met somebody who had albums of Gwar, and I listened to a couple of songs and was like, I had the exact opposite reaction you had. I was like, "This is not for me."
Yeah. Well, with that though, I knew the subject matter was cool, but like Dave Brocky's voice is something else. And unfortunately, like the same way like my era emulated Beavis and Butthead and whatnot, a lot of the ways I deliver words are from listening to so much of that stuff. Like I was just so obsessed if you watch a thing or you like listen to some banter between it, you can see directly where I stole shit from Brocky countless times throughout my life. But like his second voice was different. And then so I gravitate towards like some of the other characters because they always, up until their metalcore days, they would always have like 2 or 3 other characters per album singing songs. So like Casey Orr as Beefcake and Mike Bishop as Beefcake. I prefer Casey Orr out of the two from those eras because there's been like 5 Beefcakes. But
which instrument does Beefcake? Which instrument does Beefcake play?
Bass.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the giant Spartan warrior one. Is he there? This guy. I can't really see if he's there. I swear it's there. But like I want to listen to that stuff. But like there was cool things about it, but like when you hear somebody that sings in a way you've never heard, you gotta kind of like let it become part of you. It's like Tom Waits or something, you know. It's like, you know, just
Yeah.
go, oh boy, this is the best thing I ever heard in my life. But like I knew from the get that Gwar was that way, especially I already knew that there was like comics and like just you know, they never really had action figures, but eventually they had like Warhammer style figures for the Rumble on Antarctica game, and just
Sure.
you know, there was so many attacks. Like you look at the CD book and there'd be like the real picture of them and these just perverse drawings that like you have to hide from the parents because it's just very lewd.
Yeah, it was definitely a thing. And I was like, I can't play this very loud at home. Mom will ask me, what the hell is that?
I
So,
managed the hiding from the parents thing. One year, I managed to get my mom to buy me Ragnarok on CD. It was in stock at Meyer, and thankfully, she didn't even look at the track list or listen to it because the first song, "Meat Sandwich," is like, you know, telling you like, "Don't send me Jesus, he's only a man," and all these things. I'm like, oh, martyrdom, about don't die for the dead religion die. This is my Easter present.
That makes it even better, man.
happy Easter. Here's Gwar.
Now you have to find like a drawing of the guys in Gwar, but put little bunny ears.
Little bunny ears on the guys in Gwar.
There's I think there's a video of them wearing like doing an Easter egg hunt with the bunny ears on somewhere.
Yeah.
Of course there is. That's amazing.
That would make sense. So, Sean, speaking of drawing, you are also an artist. You're on Twitch. You're doing wood burnings. You do designs for your band and all that stuff.
I do a thing or two.
Was the art that Gwar uses like kind of an influence on you as far as getting into drawing, that kind of thing?
100%. Plus, like, again, I got heavy into them in high school. Like, of course, that's all I did was draw them. Like, Gwar and like Ninja Turtles are kind of the things that I don't need a reference.
Yeah.
A reference will make it better, but like, I know the angles of the stuff in Gwar because I obsessed with the pictures that much.
Right.
A lot of my friends in high school, there was like at least like 5, 10 of us that were like just obsessed and like it fed into it. You try to like out fanboy the other ones. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's bohab.
A thing that happens when you're in high school.
And forever for a lot of fandoms.
Yeah, for some.
I still do it with Fall Out Boy.
Do you?
I was like, that was like I was the first person out of my group to ever find Fall Out Boy and first person I ever knew to find Fall Out Boy. So I'm very about it sometimes.
You mentioned Ninja Turtles, so I have to sidebar about this. How do you feel about the new movie that's coming out?
I usually don't watch trailers. I happen to watch this trailer. I like the stylized nature. I think that everybody involved loves it, and I haven't started collecting them yet. But this looks like a respectable reboot, whatever. But they can keep making this stuff and run it into the ground if they're going to keep reissuing the same toys I had as a kid. I can buy them for $10. Like I was looking at like I had to do whatever I could not buy like Baxter Stockman and Rocksteady the other day at Walmart.
Yeah,
but like if that's going to come out every time, let them do their thing. Who cares? I'm glad that like
they don't have those creepy faces like that one set I saw.
Yes, yeah, there was a set we saw at Walmart that had like very exaggerated faces that were like, yeah, that was when the toys started getting really silly. But it does warm my heart whenever we go shopping and I see the toys on the shelf that are identical replicas of the toys that were on the shelf when I was a kid. Yeah, it's
and
just
affordable.
Cool.
I mean, they're half the price of a reaction figure.
Yeah, that always. I would have more of those reaction figures if they were the price they're supposed to be. Like Star Wars figures were like $4 maybe when I was a kid, and those reaction figures were like $20.
Yeah. And the remakes of the Ninja Turtles are straight up $10 right now. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, and again, like the Ninja Turtles and stuff, it's like I grew up on those, so that I see like Gwar looks like giant mutated, you know,
For sure.
eternal things. It's sci-fi and comics and everything come to life. Plus, I played Warhammer for a bit when I was like really young, like 10, 11, 12 and stuff.
Okay.
So it's the same deal. Magic the Gathering cards, all that stuff being thrown into this weird heavy metal punk rock theatrical show.
Are you into Lord of the Rings too?
So you all would have loved my fifth grade teacher. He actually owned a hobby store.
Whoa!
So we read The Hobbit. Whenever he taught us like a history thing, it was like the Vikings and stuff. So it was like Vikings versus the natives. We all got little figures that we'd play like a turn-based tabletop game. And they had it up through like the Civil War or something. Every historical thing we'd actually play that tabletop turn-based stuff as a class.
Wow,
that's amazing.
We were given like, of course, you like would give everybody like a gift card to his store for Christmas. So of course now like we got one free figure. Learn how to paint. Now we want the whole like how to play Warhammer kit for Christmas. So
yeah, that's cool.
But then we read The Hobbit as a class. We did all that stuff. So I'm not like super into Lord of the Rings. I loved it visually. I liked the original trilogy of the Lord of the Rings movies. Hobbit was too CG for me. But and like I don't read like I used to be able to. So
I feel that
like,
I can't pummel through books like I used to anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not great at it. No, I figured I'd ask because like normally if like you're into like Vikings and medieval stuff, Lord of the Rings is sometimes that gateway into it, or Magic the Gathering, one of the two.
Yeah, and I was pretty heavy into Magic the Gathering during like middle school too. I gave away all my cards at the end of 8th grade because I thought like new school, new me, I was going to be cool. But like a couple months later, I'm collecting Spawn toys and playing video games and obsessing about the band of the alien that pees on everybody.
When I worked at the game store, I always used to tell people when they were selling their collections, I was like, keep one deck. If you're going to sell your Magic cards, keep one deck because you might fall back into it. And if you do, you're going to be very upset that you didn't at least keep that one deck that you used to play all the time.
Oh, and incidentally, Gwar would play that and or D&D on their bus. Like that was, they all. I've read like various members talk about like what decks people would play, like, and it kind of would make sense. Like one's red and black, like obviously that's why he's obsessed with this kind of imagery.
Right,
and it shows in the character.
It's funny. I never put it together. The idea of Warhammer and Gwar, like those two fandoms do completely. Those circles mesh for sure.
And, when they came back strong in 01, in 2001, with Violence Has Arrived, it was like the first time they really like outsourced for their art completely. And they had the Warhammer artist Adrian Smith do the cover.
Nice.
And it was some iconic imagery. It was great.
So out of like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Out
of all the bands that like you listen to over time, is it the theatricality that kind of gets you interested into certain stuff, or is it just specifically Gwar that you like, or do you like stuff like Ghost and things like that too?
Well, other than the fact that like I saw Green Jello on MTV first, Gwar is kind of like the first gimmick band I cared about, but I've loved a million gimmick bands since. Me and my friends would always try to get like we were making costumes and trying to basically like totally not be Gwar guys, but like trying to start like grindcore and like death metal scary things. We had friends that did the same thing downriver. I don't know if you guys remembered Hate Work back in the early 2000s.
It sounds
familiar.
They ran a lot of the like Harpo's opening gigs. So, whatever. It was always like, we're totally not just ripping off Gwar. We're doing this. It's like, anybody who doesn't know is just assume you're odorous. fine.
You mentioned Green Jello. That's what I was going to say. That was the band I was the most familiar with in the 90s. They had that Three Little Pigs song with a claymation video, and it was so cool. And then, like, instead of putting out an album, they put out a video cassette. And then the record company said, like, no, you have to put an album out. So the album was the soundtrack to the video cassette kind of thing.
That's fun.
How Green Jello and Gwar have a connection, but I am fuzzy on what it is. Can you elaborate?
So, I mean, honestly, we should message Bill Manspeaker and give him the day. He might actually answer it properly. But from what I gather or have read somewhere, I think Gwar went through like Buffalo, New York one time, and they just hit it off and kind of like showed. I think like one of the Gwar guys showed like the Green Jello guys how they made the costumes.
Yeah, okay.
Now, however, Gwar went on to do much better and start casting stuff,
right?
And use like injectable latex foam. Green Jello to this day is still using colored duct tape.
Yeah, yeah, they're like shitty Gwar.
Oh, goodness.
Well, then we'd have a band now. Like you and I could join right now.
Yeah, you guys are like, you just have to go spend like $10 on some
duct tape. Right. Exactly.
We'd have to like figure out a way to do like a Skype training thing. And I saw Green Jello at the Gathering last year, and they probably had 30 people playing on stage.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It was they had this core that like would travel like through these 10 cities, and then all the people met up, and they just. It was good. They're all playing the same thing, You get 10 guitars playing the same thing. It just sounds heavier.
I remember even the video cassette had like they'd show the pictures of the band, and there was like 3 drummers and 2 bass players and 7 guitarists and 3 singers.
See, and you think that like Dropkick Murphys has too many band members?
Oh, I think that's right. I look at a band like that, but we even think of Green Jello, and I'm like, what were they like when they were just in a local band? Like when
they were local for a while.
When a local band shows up and they've got all these goofy duct tape puppets and like 14 members, like what are you supposed to think when you're like a 3 or 4 piece punk band?
Well, and I'm thinking too, like you guys both really love Cybertronic Spree. You've played with Cybertronic Spree and a lineup. Like those guys, there's enough of them to where they don't fit on the Pike Room stage.
Yes.
So it's like add any more.
They also like they swap in and out though. Sometimes Rumble's able to play.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't. So they modify their stuff a lot. But yeah, like back in the 90s, that was the thing, especially in heavy bands. Like you go to like a local show and it's like 2 singers, neither of them playing an instrument. Having like a DJ or something. Like, come on, like you're not scratching for the whole song. Figure this out.
Right.
Multiple drummer bit, even before Slipknot. Like, well, obviously Green Jello did before Slipknot. Lots of bands have like extra percussionist, extra like full kit drummers.
Yeah, that's always mind blowing.
I've seen a band with 2 bass players.
When there's 2 drummers in a band, that's always mind blowing because those guys got to be lockstep. Well, otherwise, it's gonna sound like garbage.
Yeah, because there's an electronic drummer with also like those bigger, I don't know what they are, like the bigger bongo looking drums on either side, and then an actual drummer for Bring Me the Horizon. So there's 2 drummers for them.
Yeah,
too,
so like they've got a percussionist.
Yeah, basically.
To go together with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes you say auxiliary percussionist so that you're not the guy that hits the keg with the steel pipe, even though that's what you're actually doing.
Right. Yeah, and that what half of what Metallica's Saint Anger sounds like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Clink, clink, clink.
When you look at it that way, Lars is an amazing percussionist.
It's true.
Fair. Very fair. So you got into Gwar, as you said, kind of early in junior high school. What about them has sustained throughout your life that you've continued, that it wasn't a thing that you were like, this is cool, and then you grew out of it?
A lot of it was tradition. And I mean, I missed last year, but before that, what was it? So like 15 to 39, I saw them like every year other than COVID. I saw every Detroit area show that wasn't a festival. So, and a couple Grand Rapids shows and stuff. So it became a tradition. It's like it's Halloween. I'm seeing some monsters kill something. If it's an election year, they're going to kill all the candidates.
Right.
Like there was times where like I don't know, I'm not one of those like lunar cycle people, but eventually, like you got these highs and lows in weeks and months, and you're going into the death of all seasons. It's depressing. You get there, that the first song, someone's head gets chopped off, blood washes all over you, and you can make it. I don't know. It was
You feel
reassuring.
clean again, huh?
You were reborn.
I mean, like, I don't know how personal we're getting, but like when my mom died when I was like 19, I was worried because it was October, and I was like, hey, what day is this going to happen? Because
Oh no.
I was like, I'm going to this show, and everyone understood. And it was thankfully like the funeral was like a week before, but I didn't know how things worked. And like, sure enough, like I had my friends there, and but if I didn't go see Gwar, I don't know how I'd be. Like it saved me countless times.
Yeah.
Just like this is what I need, and it's corny, it's theatrical, it's loud, it's vulgar, but it has its place.
So you said you've seen them like multiple years in a row. Do they change their? And you've also said that they're the kind of band that like they're a live band. Like you can listen to the records, but you don't really know what the experience is unless you experience it live. Are they the kind of band that like have they ever played the same set in two shows that you've seen, or do they change the setup like every?
I think they changed their set list night to night here and there.
That's cool.
Like what happens a lot is new album cycle. They're gonna have like a lot of times they have a song dedicated to like a new giant villain. You're probably gonna see them fight that bad guy at the end. A lot of times they're gonna tour every year though. So the next year they have a lot of like um, wrestling match tours where it's like, okay, so like Bush and Clinton are gonna fight each other.
Okay.
And then like they're like tag they're fighting each other. Then like Onerous Executioner like, we've had enough. Then let's go and kill them or whatever. Then like tag matches where like the Destructo brothers will come out, Techno Destructo, Bozo Destructo, Starborg, depending on what era. And they'd be like kind of the final one where it's like kind of a lazier tour, but they play a lot of the old hits. They're not stuck with playing that cycle
Sure.
of the albums, whatever. And they know that people just want to see some fighting and some blood, so they can kind of get away with that. But they have a lot of the same bits that they do all the time, and sometimes they'll break out the old costume. The costumes have a shelf life. Latex degrades. If you have any old masks, if you have any old masks or props or whatever, you'll already know. That's how their stuff goes. So they try to get some good mileage out of it. But yeah, so they have similar stuff.
So I'm assuming at some point you floated the idea of Bathroom of the Future wearing costumes.
No.
No. Okay.
However, yes, I have tried to get something going with Tim countless times where we were going to do stuff. And before Bathroom of the Future was a thing, we did have silly ideas for like special occasions.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, I don't think we're gonna do any costume thing unless we get like on like a cheapy creepy or something.
Right. Yeah. Some kind of Halloween show.
But
I was gonna say, like, you guys now there's 4 of you. You guys could be Ghostbusters.
It's true.
Yeah, there's already proton packs and the band, the proton packs.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of stuff. So here's the other thing. We thought about like we did Dragon Con and we have all these other cons that we're like trying to get on, trying to make work out. The main reason we don't even cosplay for that stuff is that we don't want someone to see us for the first time and think that we're like a Ghostbusters themed band, because those exist.
Yeah.
And
No, that's
because you do it as a band, you want to do the thing. Like, now let's say there was like another Downriver show. We can be silly and wear costumes for that. but like we're so particular. If we do it the wrong way, like let's say we look extra science fiction, maybe Back in the Future, it's going to sound like it. Now
Right.
everybody's waiting for the point where like we spray fake poo or something on somebody at that point.
I was thinking alien goo,
Goo.
not ooze.
Oh, not ooze.
Goo.
Goo.
Goo and ooze are different. Ooze is reserved for the turtles.
Right. Well, Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think it's been educational. And as always, I love hanging out with you. Plug your stuff. What do you got going on?
Well, yeah, obviously Back in the Future is always doing something or another. I think I switched my name, BrutalFattery, on all the socials. All the socials, you know, I try to put my art out there. I do Twitch streaming. Just trying to stay busy and have a good time.
Yeah, I've seen more of Mega Man X in your Twitch stream than I ever saw playing at in my own life, because Mega Man, the X series is too hard for me. I'll stick with regular Mega Man.
On the opposite, I think that being able to upgrade, you tough it out for a level or two, then it starts getting easier. So play X4. You'll like X4.
All right. I'll take that under advisement. Do you want to see what we've learned about Gwar while you've got Sean here to maybe use as a lifeline?
Sure.
I can do a lot of Gwar talk. We haven't even started yet.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read off some song titles.
Okay.
And one of the song titles is not a Gwar song.
Okay.
So you can either you can consult Sean and then make your best guess.
Okay.
You're not gonna pull the cover card, are you? Because they have. Okay. All right.
Nope. All right. So here you go. This is your first set of songs. Saddam a Go-Go, Pepperoni, The Issue of Tissue, Space Cake, Cyborg Betty.
Third one.
What do you think, Sean?
Oh, come on.
I mean, well, that's the thing. He's gonna know, so right. I really can't ask him for help because he's just gonna give the answer.
He would probably know. He might.
I know. Those are all on this toilet Earth.
Yeah, they are actually all on this toilet Earth. The fourth one, Cyborg Betty, is actually that's a clutch song.
Okay.
All right, we'll try one or two more of these. All right. Next up, Fuck This Place, Death to Dickie Duncan, 20 Minutes of Oxygen, and Viking Death Machine.
The first one?
No, it was the third one that time.
Okay.
It was the third
one.
And
was it the second song? MC Chris does the vocals for it.
Oh, does he?
Yep.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, let me give you one more. Let's see if you can get one of these. Vlad,
not gonna.
Vlad the Impaler, Maggots, The Years Without Light, and I can't think of a fourth one. I fucked it up.
So was the fourth one the one that you don't know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Because initially, if you would have said one more thing, I would have gone with Maggots, because that I associate that with Slipknot immediately.
Oh yeah. So I guess they also have a song called Maggots.
Hey.
Yeah, they beat Slipknot to it by like 8 years or so.
So while we've enjoyed talking to you about Gwar and your fandom of Gwar, we apparently have learned very little. We've only scratched the surface.
Well, we know about green jello.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, nice.
There's my little odorous.
That's awesome. Well done, sir. How long does that take?
I think this was like 2 streams, probably like 3 hours.
3 hours total? Wow.
Probably.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Sean. Welcome back to the Really Big Fan Podcast. Thanks again to Sean, aka BrutalFattery, for joining us and talking about Gwar. Very strange band.
Yeah, a lot of people. They were. There was I think think an after party thing in Grand Rapids somewhere where they were doing a Gwar show after Upheaval.
Okay.
Like it was part of the Upheaval after party or something.
Yeah.
And one of the other girls was like, "Are you coming to shoot Gwar?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "You should. Oh my God."
Well, and they just did a Tiny Desk concert for NPR.
Tiny Desk concert is like, it used to be like you'd have like somebody like Mac Miller in there, and then you
Yeah,
have,
all these
like,
indie artists.
yeah, and now it's like Juvenile,
Cypress
Cypress
Hill.
Hill, Gwar.
Right,
It's
yeah.
getting off the
I don't know.
rails.
I don't know when it turned the corner, but now it's the new like. Have you played a Tiny Desk concert yet? Then you're not a real band.
Yeah. I love it.
You can of course follow Sean at BrutalFattery on Twitch, on I believe Instagram, and you see some of his art. And you can check out Bathroom of the Future wherever you like to stream your musics. It's serotonin boost time.
Woo!
And speaking of serotonin boost, or I should say, speaking of Bathroom of the Future, my serotonin boost this week is having gone to see them last Thursday, seeing the band Wheatus for the first time.
You say it like Wheatus.
Wheatus. Wheatus. I knew Teenage Dirtbag, and I spent the week listening to some of their hits on Spotify, so I would know a couple of songs going into it. They might be my new favorite band.
They're way better than they should be.
They were so good. They're every musician in that band is amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. It's one of the things I discovered listening to their stuff on streaming was that some of the covers they do are like Rush, or there's one of my favorite Tragically Hip songs that they covered on a live album, and I'm like, ooh, I like this. And then listening to some of their originals, I'm like, this is fun and boppy and stuff. They let the crowd choose the set list.
Yep.
They were like, we're playing Teenage Dirtbag for sure, but we're going to play it last. So what do you guys want to hear? And people would shout stuff out, and they'd be like, all right, let's do that. And then they would just do it. And that's amazing. Like you see other bands like Pearl Jam who change the set list every night, and that's cool. I like a band that can change the set list every night. And that's what it looked like. I'd looked on setlist.fm going in to try and get an indication of what I was in for. And the set list was pretty much different, but it ended with Teenage Dirtbag every night. I'm like, okay.
See, so that's why
They're one of those
just
bands.
letting people choose it.
Yeah, they just let you shout stuff out, and then they play it.
You should have shouted your Rush song because you did end up.
I did once. They have another song called I think it's just called Mullet, and it's about like the history of the mullet. And
Yeah,
I kept
I heard
yelling.
that.
I kept yelling mullet because I really wanted to hear it. And eventually they played it, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to yell at the band anymore. They were the lead singer / guitarist, very fun, very
High energy,
very funny.
goofy faces.
Very goofy faces. The backup singers were super cool, and the keyboardist was fantastic. The bass player was hilariously fun to watch. I got to talk to him after the show, and he was great. Like I said, they might be my new favorite band.
And this is all because I just introduced you to Teenage Dirtbag, and you fell down a rabbit hole.
It is. That's the other thing too, is I didn't bother to look up how many band members there were, so that I had no clue going in what that stage was going to look like. So like when they were setting up, I looked at you and I was like, I think there's one more band before Wheatus.
Yeah.
And then they just started playing. I was like, oh no, this is them.
Never mind. They don't look like what I thought at all.
So yeah, go listen to Wheatus. There's good stuff. BMX Bandits and Mullet are fantastic songs.
So for me, I'm also picking a concert, but it's more just a specific part of it. So when you are part of the cannabis community, you see a lot of very high volume smoke sessions, and I think I just witnessed my biggest one
Okay.
at Pine Knob. Which is not where there was a cannabis event. It was where a Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa event was.
Is Wiz Khalifa big into cannabis?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's got his own called Khalifa Kush.
All right.
And he...
I don't know very much about Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, he's got, like, branding with, what is it? I think it's called Student Glass, and it almost looks like a hookah, but they have their own Taylor Gang one, which is his thing. But, like, I got to hear all of my favorite Wiz Khalifa songs.
Excellent.
Which did not expect that to happen.
So you had my Weezer experience where like you
Pretty
never need to
much.
see Wiz Khalifa ever again because you heard all your favorite songs.
Yeah, and it was weird because it's like so for people that don't realize how this works is that like we only get 3 songs to shoot, sometimes less. And so I only heard the first 3 songs, but then because of how the tight window of crossover was with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa, they had it where like there was very minimal time in between. So
that's super cool.
When the set was going to stop and when it was going to start. So the handlers brought us down early. So we heard 2 more Wiz Khalifa songs before we actually got to, go into Snoop. So then I heard the other 2 that I really liked. I'm like, I've literally heard every Wiz Khalifa song I ever liked. This is awesome because he came out to Black and Yellow, and most of the stuff that he did was off of that album. And that's the one that I know. So like Roll Up and On My Level and all that other stuff was all at the same time. And like because he's so happy and smiley, like he was entertaining to shoot and entertaining to watch, to the point of like Jacob and I were screenshotting even our raws and going like, look at this face he made, like what is this, like, but it was because he was just all over the place and running around. He was the most energetic out of everybody. So I was really excited about it. But where I get into the point of the smoke out, it wasn't even time for Wiz Khalifa, and I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this on the stream, but I can definitely upload it somewhere. But if you can tell, that is the pavilion and the hill from Pine Knob, and it is absolutely smoked out. And that's not even with the entire audience there yet. That was during Burner, who was the first rapper of the day. So it was pretty hilarious. And like, to be fair to Burner also runs Cookies. That's his whole brand. So they have that globally in like Barcelona and stuff like that. I don't know if Too Short is really as part of the cannabis community as everybody else is, but once you get into like Warren G, then you've got Regulate.
Sure.
And he's part of that whole crew. So as you're moving up higher in the set, everybody's getting higher and higher. Dude was just smoking like massive blunts next to me. And like I smoked, but I was standing there going like, I think this is a little much for me. Like there's so much of it, and I'm like,
massive contact high.
Yeah, and everybody's like, they're like, I feel weird. And I'm like, I don't, but I'm just like, this is a lot.
It's because you look to your left, look to your right, everyone's smoking.
Yeah, somebody had the Elf on the Shelf, but Snoop. So it's nice. Snoop on a stoop is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And somebody was holding it in the crowd, and I got a picture of that. Some dude was rolling on his phone, like had flour on top of his phone and was just trying to roll it. And I was trying to like get pictures of him, but I couldn't get the right angle. But it was wild. So that was definitely a sight to behold.
I wonder if the people who work at Pine Knob actually really enjoyed it or were really annoyed by it.
I mean, that's the weird part is like a lot of security seems to be like, or like not necessarily security, but like the people that are in the aisles are mostly senior citizens.
Right.
So I would have to think that either they've been to Woodstock or are very against Woodstock.
I'm saying, I wonder if they were like, this is fun, whatever. If they're like, everyone's just smoking weed, we're not going to have a problem here.
Right.
Or if they were like, fucking
I mean,
potheads.
there was a whole crowd of cops, but like they're not going to stop it because it's perfectly legal.
But they're making sure you're not doing anything else.
Yes.
That's not legal.
Yes, exactly. So like there was tons of troopers there and stuff like
that. Yeah,
it always makes me a little nervous.
I'm sure it's easy pickings for that kind of stuff.
You'd think, yeah. And then Snoop rolled out in a car.
Yeah, on the stage. That's
which
fun.
was wild.
Yeah.
And they made it look like he was hotboxing even though it was a convertible.
Right.
But every time he ends his next episode, every time he ends he goes, they play the A, and then he goes, and what the fuck we gonna do every day? And everyone smoke
weed every day.
And he goes, you motherfucking right. And so like I try to be as understated with like my excitement with these things, even though like one of the handlers definitely saw me singing Wiz Khalifa, don't get me wrong. But like I try to like as I'm working, I'm shooting, sometimes I'm mumbling and I don't realize it or whatever. But when he did that, I was standing on Brandon's stool because he like was like, you're short, you need this. So I'm standing on it, and then when he goes, what the fuck we gonna do every day? I was just like, I had my hands up, I was just like, smoke weed every day. Like, there was a lady next to me that almost burned me with her joint. Like, it was fun, though.
Now, you say quite often that one of the best vocalists that you've ever shot, because you were close enough that you could hear them actually singing as opposed to just hearing what's coming through the monitors, was the guy from Disturbed.
Yeah, David Draiman is, like, perfect.
How is Snoop live?
So, Snoop is good live. Sometimes rappers will do this thing, and I can't really I couldn't hear it as much this time, but I think at the Fillmore show they might have had like underplaying
like a backing
vocal.
track.
Yeah. And like, I hate when rappers do that. That drives me nuts.
Sure.
I don't think he did it this time. And it sounded like with Wiz Khalifa, it only had like the ad libs in the background
Sure.
and stuff like that. But there will be some rappers where like Snoop did do it once when he played Movement. He was supposed to technically be DJing as DJ Snoopadelic. Silly. And like they played his full song like with his vocals on it, and he was rapping over it, and it drove me absolutely bonkers.
I guess I can kind of understand it. Like, it's if you're gonna.
Uh-oh.
There it is.
I must.
I think you bumped
forward.
the. Yeah,
My
you
bad.
bumped the thing. But like, if you don't want to ruin the experience for the live crowd, you play the backing track.
Yeah.
Behind you, so that like if you don't judge your breathing right, you're just like between
Right.
a couple words, at least the backing track will pick up for you, kind of thing.
Well, and that's where you like seeing rap shows is really interesting, and this was actually something even that my buddy Alfred Banks, who raps in New Orleans and he does tours and stuff like that, he asked the other day, like, what do you guys prefer? Do you prefer
Right.
somebody to rap over their tracks or not? And the majority of us were like, no, it feels like karaoke when you do that,
Yeah.
and it's not good. Like, if you're there to perform it. So, like, I didn't take any issue with anybody that I saw because I feel like they all were performing very well for the Snoop show. But, like, I've seen other rappers do it. And
Yeah.
I'm like...
No, and I absolutely understand.
Like, if Eminem can do it, you can do it.
Right.
Eminem has to put way more syllables in it than all of you. He did Rap God live, and that will still be one of the craziest things I have ever seen in my life.
I like that. That should be on a shirt. If Eminem can do it, you can do it.
Which Snoop did end up at Mom's Spaghetti, too.
Yes, he did.
beforehand, So, full circle there.
There you go. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's Really Big Fan podcast. As always, I encourage you to follow us on Twitch, where you can watch us do this on Wednesday mornings at Really Big Fan Pod. You can also watch me play Fortnite mainly, but plenty of video games. You can follow us on social media. We're on Threads, Instagram, Facebook. I don't think we have very much on our TikTok.
We don't.
But
and Twitter,
and
which
Twitter
is dying.
Right. Or X if you're actually it's not.
It's still Twitter to me, damn it.
Still Twitter to me, damn it.
It's my new pie knob.
There you go. You can follow us on all of that at Really Big Fan Pod, and that's where you can find us over on Patreon, where you can get ad-free versions of the shows. And as of this week, the first episode of our second podcast, which is Patreon exclusive, called the Really Big Fan Pod Double Feature. I get together with Mike Pandoff, who's been a guest on this show. He loves movies, and we pick out some of our favorite movies and we start ranking them. We're making a list to see what our favorite movies are and where they are. So we haven't come to blows over anything yet, but it's only the first episode. It'll happen. We're going to disagree eventually. He's going to tell me one of my favorite movies is crap, and I'm going to quit the show. You can for the $5 box fan tier, you can get the ad-free shows and that show over at patreon.com/reallyBigFanPod. And don't forget our constant garage sale over on eBay.
Constant garage sale. Buy the things.
Nonstop garage sale. Doing that helps us feed Kylo and Lou. And Lou, last week you were like, help us feed Kylo.
Yeah, and I was like, did not mention Lou at all, but Lou is just lumped into that. I just say Kylo because everybody knows Kylo.
Yeah, well, Kylo's the sweet boy.
Yeah.
Lou is the terror.
Lou is the menace.
He is. He's a fuzzy terrorist.
He should have been named Dennis.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks once again for listening to the Really Big Fan Podcast.